An ancient Jewish legend from the ancient book, The Life of Adam and Eve, recounts that in his final illness, Adam sent his son Seth, together with Eve, into the region of paradise to fetch the oil of mercy, so that he could be anointed with it, healed, and not die. Seth and Eve went in search of the tree of life, and after much praying and weeping on their part, the archangel Michael appeared to them and told them that they would not obtain the oil of mercy from the tree of life, and that Adam would die. Christian writers from the early church modified this Jewish legend by adding words of consolation to the archangel's message, to the effect that after 5,500 years, the loving King, the Messiah, the Christ, would come and would anoint all who believe in him with the oil of his mercy. This legend is an example of the anguish each of us feel at the destiny of illness, of pain, of suffering, and of death. We try to eliminate pain and suffering, and people have constantly thought about a cure for terminal illnesses and a cure for death itself. Our lives have been turned upside down in the last 2 years in the hope of eliminating most of the pain that could have been caused to humanity by COVID. Sooner or later, it may be possible to find the remedy for COVID, or even to find a way to keep us alive for perhaps a few more decades, or even perhaps for hundreds of years, and to delay death itself for a long time. Surely the medicine of immortality must exist, even if it hasn't been discovered as yet. Modern medical science strives, if not exactly, to delay death. At least it tries to eliminate possible causes of death and to prolong life for as long as possible. But if we reflect and pray for just a few moments, what would it really be like if we were to succeed in living forever? Perhaps not in excluding death totally, but perhaps in postponing death indefinitely. Would that be a good thing, to delay or postpone death for hundreds of years? Humanity would become extraordinarily old. There would be no room for youthfulness in a world where people could live to 300 or 400 years. We see this perhaps occurring already in our world today. Jesus was a great leader at the tender age of 30. But most 30 or 33-year-olds are considered too inexperienced to perhaps even run a parish, let alone to save the world. Prime ministers, presidents, popes, and even queens, most of them are in their 60s, 70s, or even 90s. Despite Anthony Albanese's youthfulness, he's almost 60. While our local member, he's just 53 years old. He's altogether a spring chicken. Joe Biden, 79 years old. Nothing wrong with being old, though. Endless life, however, would not be a paradise, I don't think. I find it hard enough to remember what happened last week, let alone what might have happened to me 200 years ago if I was to live that long. And that's for someone who's just turned 40. What would become of our memories and experience if we lived for 400 years? How would we know that something was actually a significant event in our life if we lived for 400 years? The true cure for death must be different than just a medical cure to prolong life a little bit longer. To live for a long time, maybe even to live forever, would require us to be transformed from within. Living forever would need a new life to be created within us, truly fit to live forever. It would need us to be transformed in such a way, both bodily, but also psychologically and spiritually, that we will have the capacity to embrace the fullness of life for eternity. What is new and what is exciting in the Christian message, in the gospel of Jesus Christ, was and is that we are told that there is a cure for death. And my friends, it's within our reach. In baptism, this medicine of immortality is given to us. A new life begins within us, a life that matures in faith and is not extinguished by the death of the old human life. To this medicine of immortality, perhaps many might respond, I hear what you say, but I just don't believe it's true. We're all impacted by aging, by sickness, and even by death. And even those who want to believe in immortality will ask, as I've even asked myself, is this really true? Immortality, new birth, new life through baptism? This is too incredible. Through the mystery of the death and the resurrection of Jesus, through the mystery of baptism, we are reclothed in a new, immortal garment of God. Our humanity is reclothed in this immortality of God. This changing of garments at the very core of who we are is something that continues for the whole of our lives and is assisted by the other sacraments that we receive. Baptism gives us immortality, but we often fall back into the life of humanity, and so we need the sacraments over and over again. What happens in baptism is the beginning of a process that embraces the whole of our lives right to the very moments of our death. And it makes us fit, not just for this life, but it makes us fit for eternity. In such a way that we are robed in the garment of the light of Jesus Christ, and that we can appear before the face of God and live with God forever. We become fit for eternity. And this is what happens every time we receive the sacraments. We treasure these gifts, and we should treasure them, because they make us not just fit for now, but fit for eternity. The process of aging, of sickness and death, these are transformed as we become fit to live forever. In the gospel of this Easter night, we meet the women who go to the tomb with spices to anoint the dead body of Jesus. They go to perform an act of compassion and of love for a dear departed friend, just as we would do for one of our dear departed friends. But they did not understand the message of immortality. The women must have been filled with questions on that day when they went to the tomb. What happened? What is the meaning of Jesus' death? These are questions that each of us must answer for ourselves too, and answer in relation to our lives. What has happened to each of us in the last year? What is the meaning of everything that has occurred to us in the last 12 months? When something completely new occurs in our everyday lives, we seek answers. We stop and we think. We observe, because we don't understand, and ultimately we don't know what to do. Newness, however, can often make us fearful. In general, people subconsciously and through our conditioning, we are taught to be afraid of a surprise. The women at the tomb on the day of the resurrection, they, we are told by St. Luke, were terrified. And we can be that way at times as well. Let us not be closed to the newness and the surprise that God wants to bring into our lives now, this very night, but also the newness that God wants us to bring us into eternity. The women find the tomb empty. The body of Jesus is not there, and suddenly there are two men in brilliant clothes who say, "Why look among the dead for someone who is alive? He is not here. He has risen." Our daily problems and our worries can wrap us up in ourselves, in sadness, in bitterness, and even in death. Let the risen Jesus enter into your life. Welcome him as your friend. Not someone who is dead, but someone who is alive, who loves you, and who wants to make you fit for immortality, fit for eternity. The cure for pain, suffering, and death is found, my friends, in the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Immortality is possible, and it's within our reach. Let us accept it tonight again. We have 3 Christians who will be received into full communion with our church in a few minutes. They will be anointed with oil, and they will be fit for eternity tonight. Let us all be fit for eternity. On behalf of the whole parish, I extend Easter greetings and blessings to all people who live within our local area, to the people in Cronulla, Bundina, Kurnell, Woolooware, Burraneer Bay, Green Hills Beaches, and all the surrounding areas. To your friends, your families and your loved ones, those in our local area and those participating via our live stream right across the world. May the resurrection of Jesus Christ deepen your experience of Christ's saving work in your life and in our community and to eternity.